everything you could ever want and more. Just like a package laid at your front door. Before too long you're in too deep with all that company that you keep. No way to vanish, nowhere to hide. Challenge accepted, enjoy your ride. Now everyone knows where the hell you've been. That look in your eyes, the position you're in. I can see all the
I'm Andrew Luddy. I play guitar for Albatross Overdrive for the last decade or so. On and off, but really for the last decade.
So tell us what you do for work, your day gig.
I teach guitar, mandolin, banjo, ukulele, those sorts of things, and do odds and end type cover gigs, usually 4 hours long. Yeah.
If somebody wanted to get lessons, how do they contact you?
Best way is at the Instagram handle of mine, OCD Guitar, or at Albatross Overdrive. Probably could find it on Facebook too, I imagine.
So what's the first guitar you played?
First guitar I played was a PV Predator. I think the first time that I had a guitar that was actually my own, I was 12. Prior to that point, I played friends' guitars, some Jackson, Dinky Reverses, the King B Jackson, Kelly Jackson. Anything Megadeth played, I tried to play as well.
And how about the amp? First amplifier?
First amp was a crate, a little piece of junk crate that hissed and buzzed. But I didn't care because I had a guitar and I had an amp and I was off and running.
How old were you when that happened?
I was about 12 years old when I got my own gear, but I've been playing my brother's and his friends for a couple years prior to that. Yeah.
What was the first band you were in?
First band I was in would probably be a band that I had with my brother when we were kids, and I think I started out playing drums, and so I don't think I was older than 8 years old. We played in my parents' attic, and usually it was just Megadeth cover songs to the best of our ability, or we wrote some songs. There's a 4-track recorder somewhere in storage that might have been stolen, but it has some tapes. It'd be nice to get those.
And how did you decide that you were going to play guitar?
How did I decide?
You weren't very good at drums, I take it.
No, I was playing drums, and I had a teacher, this old lady, and she wanted to teach me Beatles, and I fucking hate the Beatles. I still really do to this day, but I have to teach some of those, or I have to play some of their songs. And I came from heavy metal background: Megadeth, Metallica, Pantera, Anthrax, Testament. So I wasn't having any of that shit, and she couldn't show me how to do double bass, and that's all anyone wants to hear, right? So I switched to guitar shortly after that. She was probably a nice lady. She's probably dead now, so rest in peace, I guess.
And the first band you were in?
First band.
I'm sorry, first gig you played.
First gig was probably unofficially, a gig in the garage for some friends. 12, 13. Had some friends over, did some songs. I probably sucked, but and then I suppose high school there was really, I don't know if you call it like official gig. More in college, I went to Santa Barbara. Anyone who's been to Santa Barbara has been to Isla Vista, and there's a street called DP Del Playa, and there was nothing but fucking parties all the way up and down the street. So we usually were playing, Friday, Saturday night somewhere along the coast. Yeah.
What was the strangest gig you've ever had?
Strangest gig? Strangest happening or strangest gig?
Well, either or.
I was hired to do a country gig, and it was going to be at Club Vinyl, which is a small room at the Hard Rock in Vegas. And so I got a call to do the gig, and I went to the first rehearsal, and this is a country gig, and there's this asshat. We'll just say his name is. We don't even mention his name. He really didn't have the country songs prepared, but he had like a whole bunch of rock songs, like Led Zeppelin type things like that, that he was going to blend in. And this was while we're here in Orange County, and so we get out to Vegas, and the night of the show, we get out to the day of the show, and so the show was later that night, but we had a rehearsal. And so we met the drummer for the first time, met the manager / promoter / shyster. He comes in and asked to hear some of the country songs, and the singer who hired me, he didn't know any fucking country songs. So they canceled the gig, and they paid for a room, but I did not get paid for the gig. Other than that, a buddy of mine, Larry Coleman, he was electrocuted. He's alive, but we were playing a show somewhere in northern Nevada, and it was raining. He went to grab his mic stand, and he got shocked to shit. Yeah.
Was he able to finish the gig?
Yeah, he finished the gig after a while, but I mean, it was funny at the time. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Everyone kind of got a good kick. If anyone who knew Larry knows Larry, that shit was always happening to him.
What was the name of that band?
I was playing in a band called Grayscale at the time, and they were from Long Island, New York, and they moved out to Reno probably in 2006, 2007, and so I met up with them. No, probably earlier. They moved out to Reno in 2005, maybe. I met up with them in like 2006. Yeah, played with them for a couple of years before Albatross.
Have you ever had any equipment failures at a gig?
Yes. And it was with that same band, Grayscale, we were playing at, there's this club in Santa Cruz, I can't think of the name. It was a Halloween gig in 2008, and at the time I had this huge rack, so none of this shit. I had this nice cab, but I had a rack, and it has all these wires, and it has all these components, like a 2-band, equalizer, a sonic maximizer, the pod, rack mount unit. And so I was drunk as shit, and it was time to play, and we didn't really have a sound check. And so I'm trying to get my shit together and trying to play, and there's no sound. And so I'm panicking. I'm like, I'm never going to figure out which one of these wires, is the one that's not working. And long story short, I wasn't plugged in to my guitar. The cable was just hanging off the side of the amp. Yeah.
Who are some of the musicians you played with over the years?
Gosh. I don't know. I've done gigs where I've played, I guess, share the stages with people. I've done gigs with Stefan Lassard of Dave Matthews Band. He's a bass player of Dave Matthews Band. I did gigs with Phil Parlapiano. He played accordion, I believe. He played accordion and maybe mandolin. He was like a utility player for Rod Stewart. He was also in the movie Titanic, and oddly enough, I think I saw him in a LegalZoom commercial the other day, which is, yeah, it was definitely him. and just a bunch of other, probably well known in the music community, but probably not all that well known. But a lot of great players over the years.
And as far as your playing, who would you say your major influences are?
We're talking bands. We're talking guitarists. Both. So probably coming back to Metallica, Megadeth. Metallica on the lower end, mainly Megadeth and Pantera. It was all the thrash metal. I loved early Megadeth, like up into, I guess, after Countdown. Oh yeah, actually, you know what? I loved them even after that. Not the last 20 years. They kind of peaked, I think. But there's guitar players in there. Marty Friedman, he's a real gnarly guitar player. Alex Skolnick of Testament. Obviously Dimebag, rest in peace. Yeah, those are the main couple. And my pops always was listening to great shit when I was a kid. So Frank Sinatra, those types of things. Yeah.
Who are some of the bands you're listening to now?
Megadeth, Pantera.
The oldies.
The oldies, yeah. There's I guess the newest band, but they're really not even that new. They've been around since the 90s, early 90s. Is Clutch, but I didn't start listening to them until 2008 or so. Where else are some bands? I don't know. I like Rodrigo and Gabriela, two flamenco players. Been getting into them a little bit lately. Yeah. So it's about that.
So tell us what strings you play.
I play Diodario strings, and these are 11 gauge. And I used to do a hybrid. I used to do a hybrid with 10s on top and 11s on bottom. I play aggressive, but now it's just straight 11s. Yeah, it's good. It's good for playing in drop tunings, and you get attack real nice and heavy.
And guitars. Tell us about the guitars you play.
Well, sir, PRS guitars. PRS guitar, more like it. I've had this one for almost 16 years now, and it's a pre-lawsuit single cut. So it looks to anyone who's really not a guitar player, guitar fan or whatever, it looks a lot like a Les Paul guitar, but the headstock's different and all the electronics are different. And they were sued by Gibson for copyright infringement, so they actually stopped producing these for a while. And then the injunction was lifted, and Paul Reed Smith was allowed to make them again. But now they make an SE brand, which is like, I believe it's like the B brand, like Epiphone is to Les Paul. But they're better than Epiphones. There's some really good SE guitars. But yeah, this is my main guitar. It's really versatile. I can play pretty much any style of music that I choose or need to do.
And the other guitar?
This is a Les Paul Studio, and my brother doesn't know it yet, but he gave it to me. It's a pretty standard Les Paul. It's got a real thick neck to it, and I think it has some jumbo frets, which it plays really, really nice. And to be perfectly honest, I just used it yesterday for the first time. Finishing up our recording that should be coming out sometime soon.
So too early to tell what the differences are in those two guitars.
Oh well, no. There's a lot of like sonic difference. The PRS is actually it's actually heavier, and Les Pauls are notoriously heavy, but this is a rather heavy guitar, and yeah, different pickups and the configuration of the pots are a little different. Yeah.
And how about the amp? Tell us about the amp and your full stack setup.
Okay, so I'm using a Marshall Silver Jubilee reissue. It's a 2550, I believe is the name. Yeah, 2550. So it's 25 years until they reissued it, or Marshall was in the business, and 50 years, I think Jim Marshall had been making amps. And so they made a certain amount of the original ones in 1987, and like Randy Rhoads played it, I think Slash played one, a bunch of guys played it, Rich Robinson of Black Crowes. Essentially, it's a hot rodded JCM 800, so it's got a master, volume, and lead volume. It's got a real nice clean channel on it. It's also has an option of going from 100 watts, which is always on, or 50 watts. So and it drops it from pentode, 5 active parts of the tubes, to triode with 3 active parts of the tubes. But you don't really sacrifice any tone when you drop the volume down. Yeah.
And how about the cabinets?
The cabinets, starting on the bottom, this is a Marshall 1960 BV. It's a 280 watt cabinet. It's their, what's the name of it? They have, it's not Celestians, it's like a, shit. It's got some nice speakers in it. It's really a solid amp. I've had this for a long time, probably 2006, 2005. Now up above is a Hail Satan cabinet. We're just getting going on Hail Satan, products. So now I'm full of shit. There's a Line 6 cab for the moment, but we don't want anyone to know that. So we like Satan in this band.
So what's the story behind the Hail Satan?
Well, it was given to me by someone close to me. They had to get it out of their house before a family member was going to come and visit. And we'll just leave it like that. But the story goes that this guy's wife was making all these signs about love and this and Jesus and all that stuff. And so this guy got fed up of it, and he started making these Hail Satan plaques. So, if you want to find one, track that guy down on Reddit. I'm sure he'll be thrilled. I don't know his name, but you can find that plaque, I'm sure. But it's copyrighted by us now, so, you got to talk to us.
Okay, tell us about your pedals.
Okay, pedal board's very simple. A grand total of 6 pedals, which is about a tenth of what has been on my pedal boards in the past. Starts with a wah. It's a Dunlop wah. The main reason I got this particular one, which is a Model 95Q, it has auto return. So instead of having to press down and engage it by clicking the top part of it, it's much like the bass wah. So as soon as you put your foot down just slightly, it starts to sweep at the low end, which I prefer, versus starting it at the high end of it. It's got a boost on here, which gives it a 15 dB boost, which is nice when I have to cut through, for solos and leads. So it has 2 knobs that are hidden over here on the side, and just it controls the amount of sweep, the amount of wah you want in there. So I just keep them both cranked all the way up. Tuner, a very simple tuner. It's a Polytune tuner. A cool feature about this is when you strike it, it will play. It will pop up an entire chord, so you don't have to. You don't have to go through each string one by one. You can just hit a chord, strike a chord, and it will single out a string if there is a string out of tune. Moving on, I have a boost, this little EP boost, again, mainly for leads and coloring, so straight tone. So it's got a nice color to it, and again, it helps cut through when needed for solos. Next, it's a Ibanez Tube Screamer, the 30-year anniversary. I pretty much get all the gain I need for everything out of the amp. But once again, for coloring and like a boost, I keep it kind of cranked. The levels pretty high up there. The gain's not all that much. real nice sustain as well. After that, it's to the chorus pedal, TC Electronic Corona Chorus, and that just stays on all the time. So, you know, it just provides a little bit of wetness to the sound. You know, in a rehearsal room or whatever, there's a lot of gear, or just a real nice, just very simple setup. You could import all these tones on there, but I don't do anything. Everything's a set all the way up at noon. And then last, it goes into the carbon copy analog delay, which is very simple, very simple delay pedal. It's got 3 options on it. And I use a various amount of settings just depending on what I'm going for. And it's nice. I don't like the digital ones. I've had the Boss DD6s and a couple of their models, but the analog delay is really nice. And that's about that. So mainly, you know, like I said, the chorus is on all the time. The Tube Screamer or the EP Boost comes on for leads only. And the delay is just used sparingly for texturing.
And what about the pedal board?
The pedal board was actually constructed by our drummer, Rodney Peralta, from material that he had in his garage, minus a screw or two. He's got a screw or two loose in his head, maybe, but that's another story. But no, this thing is super badass. It's 100% custom. You know, we went through and set up a couple different heights. And this is angled, I believe, at 3 inches. So when you play, it's nice not to have to hunch all the way over the top of it to play. I could just, you know, it's perfect for me. It's completely custom. Got some nice hardware on here. Some pretty thick handles. That's really durable. We've got these beautiful edges. You know, kind of matches some of the road cases at the end. It's all wired underneath by the Voodoo Labs pedal power, and the cabling was all Planet Waves custom cables. You just clip and screw on the tips. Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's my most favorite pedal board I've ever had.
Ashes are turning, burning dust into dust. Lay to rest your weary soul.
Other gear. Any other gear worth mentioning that you use?
Yeah, picks. Dunlop picks. They're the Tortex. They're what are they? 1.14. And I've used the Gator grips before, the 1mm ones. And I don't know. They worked for a long time, 15 years. But these are really nice. And our other guitar player, D-Rock. He showed me a little trick where you kind of just carve in some scratches on both sides, and it provides a nice handling for the pick. It still slips out once in a while, but that's on me. Don't blame the pick, blame the user.
What gear is in your near future?
Gear in the near future, looking at some custom in-ears. That's going to happen. Maybe Hail Satan will have a Friedman style cabinet to go along with it. The Marshall's great for the bottom, but most likely will be another cab with some greenback speakers in there. As far as guitars, you know, always looking for a backup to this, but like I said earlier, this is pretty versatile. So I'm not a super gearhead, so I like to try to keep it as simple as possible. But having backups is always nice and welcome.
What's next for the band you're in?
Albatross is finishing up our third record. It should be out by the year 2026, at this point. No, it should be out relatively soon. I just finished my final tracks yesterday, which was just doubling, tripling, actually some solos. A couple guys have just a few more minor things to touch up. The mixes are getting pretty close, and then it's mastered, and then it will be out on vinyl. And then, we're constantly writing songs, so hopefully sometime, probably towards the tail end of the year, we'll start recording another one.
If someone wanted to reach the band, how do they do that?
They could go to hell. No, they could contact us. The normal avenues, Facebook page, Albatross Overdrive, Instagram handle at Albatross Overdrive. Our music's on iTunes. It's on, all the platforms. I think you could probably message us on YouTube, any one of those mediums, and you should be able to get a hold of us.
So, word of advice for somebody starting out playing guitar.
Word of advice would be choose who you listen to wisely. I see a lot of people via teaching who are interested in guitar, but then they don't listen to any bands that have, some don't listen to any bands that have guitar players. Some actually don't listen to any fucking bands at all. But one thing that I think helped me early on was because of Megadeth and because of Testament and Pantera, and wanting to play that style of music, it really forced you to practice. If I were a fan of just the Beatles, my playing would be completely different. And whatever style you want to play, that's great. But there's no secret to the instrument. It's just practice and passion. That's the main thing.
All right. Any last lines?
Any last lines? No, I stopped doing lines 3 years back.
Well said.